Welcome everybody to our final panel discussion. This is our last panel discussion of the Diversity Festival. And basically, we're going to be recapping everything from our previous panels. Bienvenue à tous. Nous sommes arrivés au dernier panel de discussion du Festival de la diversité, ici avec nos invités spéciaux. Firstly, I am going to present to you our moderator of the discussion. So you may have seen him hosting the festival. He is co-founder of Chorus Music Academy. He is also the musical director at Moksha Canada Foundation. And he's an artist, engineer, and producer. I present to you Neil Danny.
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction, Nadia.
Most welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Long time no see.
Yeah, but we're really excited to kick off the panel, and I'm sure you have some amazing guests to present to us and to our viewers at home.
I do. This panel is all about moving forward. So like Nadia had mentioned, just to echo her, we are going to be recapping all of the content that we had discussed in previous panels and just basically summing up these discussions into a concise format to give you basically all the points that were discussed and all the areas of resolution that we tried to come up with as a panel and as a group. And so I, with great pleasure, like to introduce our panelists for today's discussion. I'm sure if you did tune into previous discussions during the Diversity Festival that you've seen these individuals. They're now familiar faces if you've been tuning in. First, we have Lynn McIntee, who has been a community member for the panel, as well as a panelist in week 4's discussion. And we also have Randhawa, who, along with being our note taker and the reason that we have all these notes from all our discussions, we also have Anu as a member of the community, and she has been a really important part of this discussion. She's been working behind the scenes taking notes, but today she is going to be sharing those insights with us as well. So welcome both Anu Randhawa and Lynn McIntee.
Thank you so much, Neil.
You're welcome. And I'm sorry, you know what I should say? McIntee. Please welcome Lynn McIntee. I say this wrong all the time. But please, the correction is Lynn McIntee.
Thank you so much. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
My pleasure. All right. So, talking about moving forward, let's get right to it and go over what was discussed in the week 1 panel discussion, along with the points of resolution or how we can move forward with what was discussed. So if I can just head over, I guess, to Anu for a brief summary of what was covered in week 1, as well as the questions that we were asking.
Absolutely. Thank you, Neil. So week 1 of our panel discussion, it focused on diversity and multiculturalism, where we had an opportunity to learn from our panelists as to what are some of the strengths of Canada as a nation when it comes to multiculturalism and diversity. And we had an opportunity to really highlight some of those strengths, which included definitely starting from Canadian Charter of Freedom and Rights, which provides all Canadians, whether they are citizens, newcomers, and immigrants, with certain rights and freedoms which they should be able to enjoy in a democratic country like Canada, and which includes freedom of speech, of expression, of opinion, of practicing their religion, and celebrating multiculturalism, to name a few. We also had an opportunity to learn from a human rights expert, Nicole, about the Code of Human Rights Code, which is being practiced in Canada, and how it has 30 basic human rights which allow individuals in Canada, whether they are citizens, newcomers, or immigrants, irrespective of their status, they enjoy those rights and irrespective of the diversity which they bring in terms of their ethnicity, their age, their racial background, their educational background, status of employment. So I think as a nation, Canada absolutely boasts of diversity and multiculturalism, not just in the sense of, in the sense of looking at community at large, but also having certain systems, policies, bylaws, and acts which kind of back these values of multiculturalism and diversity. So that was a couple of brief points from session 1 about multiculturalism and diversity. And yeah, I don't know if Sunil would like to add something else to it.
I'm okay for now.
Okay, and I think in terms of recommendations, and when we talk about moving forward, throughout all our panel discussions, there has been a common theme around education awareness. Since having a country with such amazing values of multiculturalism, diversity, inclusion, and equity, it's not about a journey. I think it's more about a journey and not about the destination. It's not about reaching a certain point where we feel, oh, we are all perfect. So the journey entails more and more education at the level of community, at the level of organizations, and at the political level. And that's where we learned about how important it is to know what are those basic human rights, how many of us are really aware of them, and or how many of us really take time to go and study them, and how these human rights can be taught at communities level, can be taught in the school so that youth are engaged as well. So I think those are some of the recommendations around diversity and then understanding our rights as Canadian in this country. And I think since rights and responsibilities, they go so much hand in hand, it's also important that we understand what are our basic responsibilities when we practice these rights, and what are our basic responsibilities as engaged and aware citizens and residents of this country. So that's a bit on panel discussion 1. And feel free to add, guys. Yeah.
To Anu's point, I think it's looking at the whole person. We have the framework in place and all of the that you said, Anu, yes. And we're looking at the whole person. How do we include people? If we have a system in place, how do we actually get that going at the grassroots level? And as you mentioned, it is ongoing and it's ever changing because we are evolving as we go, as we're learning new material and how to kind of go about this. And you hope that eventually it becomes a natural thing for people, whether it be in the business or in their personal life as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think platforms like this, where through Diversity Festival, how Moksha is giving that up, is not only just celebrating the diversity of this country, but then also focusing on the importance of talking, having these important talks and discussions, and realizing that it's an ongoing journey and that we are not perfect. We are all learning in the process. Our intentions are at the right place, and everybody has a role to play. So as Mahatma Gandhi said, like, be the change you want to see in the world. So we cannot just be on the complaining side and kind of saying this is not there, but then also it's also important to understand as individuals and aware members of this community, we have a role to play as well. We all have an important role to play. There are beautiful practices and systems in Canada, which we talked about, whether it's Canadian Charter of Freedoms and Rights, whether it's a Human Rights Code, also how we celebrate multiculturalism in Canada. And there is a full department which funds various events and activities throughout Canada to build that sense of sensitivity and respect and acceptance towards all different cultures and ethnic groups which exist in Canada. So I think we all have a role to play, and it's a journey.
Exactly. That was very well said, Anu. And I think, I mean, that sums up what we discussed about very well. And that's what it's all about. Looking at the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, looking at human rights, and our panelist for week 1, Nicole Krellin, was going over these human rights with us. And it was interesting to see that although they're such fundamental rights that all of us have, a lot of us may not be aware of what all of these rights actually are. So looking into further human rights and understanding these rights that we have and we should know about is very important. And so during the panel, Nicole Krellin did mention that it's available in multiple languages and it is available for free through the Human Rights Code website. And you're able to go and place this order and get this material so that you can understand. It's a resource that you can have access to. It's just a matter of seeking those resources and gaining that awareness and understanding. So for those of you who are interested in learning more, please do just go online, Google it, Human Rights Code, and you'll have the resources that are available to develop that understanding and gain that awareness. Anybody like to add anything else? I think that pretty much sums it up, folks. I mean, what we're doing today is not to go into elaborate discussion or conversation. That's already been had in previous weeks. So if this is something that you are interested in, is piquing your interest, and maybe you didn't tune into previous weeks of Moksha Canada's Diversity Festival, maybe you didn't tune in for the entire panel discussion, if you find something here that is piquing your interest, please, we encourage you to go back and revisit earlier festivals that we've held and listen to those panel discussions, because there is a lot of detail and a lot of depth in those discussions. Right now, we're just scratching the surface, but it's more to sum up everything that we've learned and just provide a very comprehensive form of understanding this. So thank you so much, and let's move on to week 2.
Thank you, Neil. Yes, so the week 2 focused on diversity and inclusion, where we kind of had a look at how Canada as a nation, again, promotes these values of diversity and inclusion when it comes to social services, when it comes to representation at various, at the level of community or politics, and when it comes to even healthcare system. And we learned that as much as these terms of equity, diversity, and inclusion have become a common trend, not everybody might be really familiar with them. So there is a need to understand these terms in depth. And that's where we learned how in Canada, when we talk about our immigration policies and systems, and Canada is known to be one of those countries which welcomes immigrants and refugees from all around the world. And we have a very strong system in place to support. And it's not just about bringing those immigrants and refugees into the country, but providing them with services and with programs that help them with the pre-arrival and post-arrival processes. And it's through the work of IRCC, that's a short form for Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship, and Canada, that these services are made available to the newcomers so that they are successful, they successfully integrate into Canadian society at all levels, whether it's economical level, social level, cultural level, they become successful members and contributing members of the society. And we had an opportunity to learn from Dr. Poulton about health equity and how the social determinants of health, whether it's employment status, whether it's cultural background, their age, their sexual orientation, or gender identity, how these social determinants of health can really impact the way in which a person receives or gets services. So it's so important for various human and social service organizations to focus on these elements when they are providing services to their service users or to the community members. We also learned in the process that when we talk about equitable services, it's important that organizations, they adopt anti-oppression framework, that they train and educate their employees who would ultimately work with the service users with regards to cultural sensitivity, cultural competency. Yes, we understand it might not be possible for everyone to understand everything about every culture in the world, but I think the term here is sensitivity. Are we sensitive? Are we open-minded? Are we open to learning on an ongoing basis? Do we come from a framework of respect and sensitivity and understanding towards all the cultures which Canada celebrates here? So I think those trainings and education, it again loops back to ongoing work when it comes to education, training, reiterating these elements of cultural sensitivity and cultural competency. It's very, very important for human services organizations to make these values as the norm. It should not come as something on top of what they are doing. It should be built into their systems, built into their service mechanism. It should become the culture of the organization. And that's only when, and it's only then that they would be able to provide more equitable, inclusive, and respectful services to its community members. Yeah, over to you, Neil.
I could add to this one. I could definitely add that I had learned a lot during that session. I really enjoyed it. I remember how you were saying how diversity has become something that is trendy. Well, I remember Amrita Kumar, she was speaking about it shouldn't be about checking boxes. You know, it should really be about making everybody feel included. And I know that Lynn remembered this, like feeling welcome, like being at the table, but also having your voice be valued. So that was one thing. Also, Dr. Dion Polton, she had also mentioned like, who is our circle? Are we surrounding ourselves with only people from our same background, like our doctor, or, you know, whoever we go see, is it the same? We should be really open to being surrounded by different cultures. So I thought that really stayed with me. And going back to the first panel, I also wanted to add that you mentioned about the refugees, and that brought me back to that beautiful experience that we saw, the refugee being welcomed here in Canada. And it was a beautiful story. It's making refugees feel welcome as well. So
absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Nadia, for sharing those comments. And I think on a personal level, myself being an immigrant to this country, I came back I came here 13 years back, and the opportunity this country has provided me in terms of evolving, growing, and realizing my full potential, that's really beyond my words. Like it's amazing. Yeah.
Lynn, would you like to add on?
Oh. Thank you. And both of you speaking, what comes to mind is enabling, because we're really enabling our citizens, whether it be a newcomer or someone that has been here for a long period of time. Is our circle broken? And if our circle is broken, then how do we complete that circle with filling in whatever needs they may be for an individual as a productive citizen of society?
Yeah, very well said, Lynn. I'm sorry, go ahead, Anu.
No, and I think to add to that, it was also shared during, I don't know, like first or second panel discussion, like how we can engage our youth, and the way Nadia was mentioning, what kind of conversations are we having in our families at our dinner table, or what kind of contacts, or what kind of network of friends and acquaintances we are having. Are they all the same? Or is there a diversity in those connections and networks? So I think engaging our youth and who would be the future leaders and change agents, it's very important, whether it's through the education system, but I would say like charity begins at home, such changes also begin at home with yourself. So yeah, thank you.
Very true, very well said. And this is just to echo the other discussions that we're having right now, and also kind of sum up what was discussed in week 2. In week 2, we had 3 panelists. So we had Amrita Kumar Datta, and we had Dr. Dion Poulton, and we also had Venki Raman, founder and CEO of VR Pace Inc. And they all brought different perspectives to the table, which was great and really helped provide a very full understanding. And so Amrita had mentioned that being at the table is very important. Everybody being at the table together is going to help create that dialogue of understanding. But even when you're at the table, do you have a voice at the table? Are you being represented? And how is this going to happen? Well, this is going to happen by having these discussions in our daily lives, in everyday settings, everyday places. For example, Amrita had mentioned by the water cooler at work. So it's not just panels like this, for example. This is a very great initiative, and this is something that Moksha Canada did want to do to promote awareness, raise the understanding that these are important issues, but it can't just start and stop here. It has to happen on a day-to-day level where everybody's talking about this as they speak about everything else. And by doing that, this is going to be something that becomes ingrained into society as a normal, everyday part of it. And to echo what Venki Raman had said, that this is going to really help if done through leadership. And this can be in organizations, this can be in businesses, this can be wherever there are leaders and leadership, and pretty much this is in every fabric of society. The leaders are really going to help spread this message to the people that are working with them. And if this can happen through the leadership and trickle down, then we're going to see a lot more of this instilled in people's mind, because, for example, this will be discussed in the workplace. This will be discussed in a way where people will have it in their mind, and not just as a special conversation that we have sometimes if and when something goes wrong or is not exactly to our liking. Lastly, Dr. Dion Poulton had also shared some amazing insights, one including, look at the circle around you. Does everybody look like you? Because if everybody looks like you, you're teaching your kids that everybody should look like you. And that is where that they are going to feel comfortable, because that is what they've experienced. They don't know any different. I mean, now living in Canada, living in Ontario, for example, or even Quebec, things are very multicultural, but it's not necessarily this way all throughout Canada, maybe even in more rural areas. And so you may be in a situation where everybody looks like you, but trying to find different cultures, trying to learn about these different cultures, I think living in somewhere like the GTA where we're exposed to a little bit more may help, but being aware of that, where if everybody looks like you, if you go to your doctor and they look like you, if you go to your dentist and they look like you, if you go to the store and everybody there looks like you, you're not going to gain that understanding of diversity, because you're not really living in a diverse community. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to, if you're living in rural, somewhere very rural, that you have to drive 4 hours out to find a doctor that doesn't look like you. But there are ways of doing this so that you can try to develop that understanding and develop that awareness. And I mean, with the way Canada is, it's only a matter of time before everywhere becomes, a mosaic, kind of like we have here in Ontario or in Quebec or in the more urban areas. But look at your life and see, does everybody look like me? Is everybody like me? Because then you're kind of contributing to that society which is not as diverse and not as open and not as aware. So if you are in an area like that, for example, try to go online and see how do different cultures do things. And that's, for example, why we like having these events like Moksha Canada's Diversity Festival. This is a place where you can experience all different types of cultures, all different languages, all different arts. And these are all communities that make up our rich cultural heritage as Canadians. Now that pretty much sums up the discussion that we had in week 2. Now moving on to week 3, I'm going to head over back to Anu.
Thank you, Neil. So week 3, we talked about democracy. And we came to know from Nicole, who was with us for panel discussion 3, that democracy is right number 29 when it comes to Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedom. And democracy, it ties into our right as Canadian citizens to vote. And that's where we had discussion how many people actually vote, or even before that step of voting comes into picture, are we aware of our local political leaders, our councillors, or even at the at the regional level, do we know who are the school board trustees, who are the councillors, who are our MPPs and MPs? And I think that's where along with this right to vote comes a responsibility as well to understand and to know more about the political environment. Because if we are advocating for change at a societal or systemic or a political level, it's important that we know about who our political leaders are, and at the same time we take that genuine effort not only to know about them, but also to go and vote, because it's that one vote which will determine which political parties come into majority and change the course of the country. So I think when it comes to democracy, it's not just about rights, it goes hands in hand with responsibility. And that's where we have Mr. Jim, who also, I think, who put us on spot, like, do we really know who are the political parties or leaders around just in our community, not to talk about Canada as a nation, but just in our community, in our region, regional municipality. And I think he also briefed on, although now we are seeing a more representation of diverse communities in politics and Canadian politics at different levels, there still needs to be work which needs to be done in this area, but things have improved over the last couple of decades. We also had an opportunity to listen to Gaia's story, how she came to Canada as a refugee claimant and her journey, and how Canada as a nation provided her opportunities to grow, to flourish, and to realize her full potential. And as we were discussing with Gaia, we also understood the importance of civic engagement, which has many different elements to it. Not voting is one part to civic engagement, but as community members, are we really taking interest in projects and initiatives that take place at the community's level, whether it's certain community building projects, could be Meet Your Neighbor Day event happening, could be a tree planting event happening. Do we make that those efforts to go out, participate, and try to know who all are there in our neighborhood and our community? So I think it again ties back to us as individuals. Are we understanding and practicing our responsibility along with our right to freedom or to democracy? So I think civic engagement was another such element. And based on personal experience, I would say as a parent, I think I make those genuine efforts to go and participate in school council meetings and meet other parents and participate in those discussions which might affect the education of not just my child, but other children in the community. So I think democracy, civic engagement was some of the elements which we discussed in our third panel discussion. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you. Thanks so much for that recap, Anu. Anu has been a really important part of this discussion, working diligently, behind the scenes, making sure that we have all this information laid out, because these conversations have been quite extensive, an hour and a half, an hour and 45 minutes, but that just goes to show how much there is to discuss about these various topics. And that was us at some point thinking, okay, you know what, we're going to wrap it up. But even then, there was a lot more conversation to be had. So thank you, Anu, for really keeping track of everything that was discussed and sharing it with viewers in a clear and concise manner.
I would say it was a team effort, absolutely. I think everybody put in their efforts, their heart and soul, and you could feel like I have attended many panel discussions in the past. I have been working in this sector of education, social services, and human services for more than 15 years, but rarely I come across panel discussions where you, beyond panel discussions, you're able to, form and find those meaningful connections and relationships, and you have that sense of community, like we are together in this. So thank you for this opportunity, and I really hope that we continue this work of panel discussions in our upcoming festivals as well. Thank you to Moksha, thank you to Sunil, and all of you. I think it's such a pleasure to be associated with all of you.
Thank you so much, Anu. And you know what, just on behalf of all of us, I'm sure that we all completely echo the exact same feelings. You know, it's been a great addition to the festival to have these panel discussions, and more so to feel even this sense of community that we now feel all together. You know, we're like a little crew, diversity crew over here, and it's really special. It's really rewarding to share a platform with people who are so passionate and so engaged in these causes, and it's been an honor to have these discussions with you. And yeah, in the future, we're looking forward to, when things go back to some kind of new normal, having these panel discussions as well at the physical festivals on stage. And so this is the beginning of many discussions. So thank you everybody for being here. Just to echo week 3 very quickly. Yes, I'm sure for those of you tuning in, you saw that I got schooled on politics. And it was good. You know what? Because it was real. That is how things work. And you may feel like me that you're an active member of society, that I'm putting in my vote, I'm doing my part. But you may still not be aware like I was. And it's easy to lose that awareness, you know, when you're looking to place an X on the ballot and see who you're going to vote for, you might have more awareness. I usually try to follow up at that point, but it's very easy to forget these things. You hear a lot of names, you have a lot of people coming to your door, perhaps, and saying, you know, vote for me, this is what I'm going to do. So after a year goes by, or a few months go by even, it's easy to lose track of everything that's taken place in that time. You know, especially in my case, I would be very involved during the time that I had to place my vote, and then after I voted, it would kind of be out of my thought process. So keeping tabs on what's going on, not only on a national level, but in your own community. Who is what in your community, and what are they doing for your community? That's going to be a very important step forward. And I learned that in week 3 for sure. Also, looking at, you know, Gaia's story was one that was very intense. It was a very intense story. And when we're so fortunate, at least myself, I was born here, I was brought up here, I did not see anything near the scope of what Gaia had experienced and Gaia's family had experienced. And it makes me so fortunate and grateful for living in a place like we do, where not only people who are going through such hardship are welcomed with open arms and have a home, but we don't go through that kind of stuff here, at least in my experience. You know, that level of violence or that level of fear among communities is not held. And yes, there is room to grow for sure, but at the same time, I think it's important to see how far we've come and how blessed we are to live in a country like Canada, which in my opinion is the greatest country in the world. But there's so much more to be done, and moving forward, there is a lot to cover. So let's do that and move over to week 4, unless any of our panelists here, or even Nadia yourself, would like to add any further comments about week 3.
Well, we did mention about involving the youth, getting the youth more involved with politics and how to make it more attractive. Maybe the use of apps, maybe the use of uh, digital platforms, something, or music. That was another one that we had mentioned during the politics, because I had said that for myself, it wasn't something that really, really interests me, but I know there's a lot of people in the same boat. And yeah, that was just a cool thing. I know you wanted to get some royalties for that idea, but it's just, you know, finding, like, brainstorming great ideas. How can we work together as a community and make these changes and move forward?
Absolutely.
Very well
I would
said.
just like to add one point there, since Nadia mentioned about social media platform, and I think as netizens making like everything is on social media these days. So as individuals, consciously we need to make those efforts. What are we spreading? We are very quick in spreading when something is not happening right. And that's important too, to voice those concerns. But when something is happening right, some organizations or grassroots level groups are making some genuine right efforts, we need to spread that more and faster. So I think there's a great onus on these netizens, the citizens of internet. How are we using the technology? Yeah.
And I think that that becomes a culture on its own, actually, spreading goodness, and that it's okay to ask questions if you don't know. We're all part of that process, right?
Very, very well said, both Anu and Lynn as well. And I agree. You know what? That's a very good point, Anu, is celebrating the things that we've done well, celebrating the achievements that we've had. Because yeah, it's kind of like when someone gets a bad review or something on Google, right? Nobody's going out and giving 5-star reviews or throwing them, you know, at a business. You can ask, hey, you give us a 5-star review, we did really well. By the way, go to Google and give Moksha a 5-star review. But on another point, everyone, people are very quick. As soon as they get angered, I'm going to go give this person a bad review. And that rage fuels them to try to do something destructive. But think about your day-to-day life. What do you celebrate? When you got an F on your report card or when you had a birthday party? You celebrated the birthday party. You're celebrating the positive. You're celebrating the achievements. You're celebrating the milestones. So just like that, if we want these kind of discussions to happen in day-to-day life, the same way that we celebrate things in day-to-day life, we should celebrate the achievements that we have as a community and look at how far we've come. It doesn't mean disregard what is left to be done. There is a significant amount, but not celebrating our achievements as a community and as a nation, I think that's also overlooking a lot. So very well said, Anu.
I just want to say something. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Okay. I just want to say that first thing that it comes from you. You have to see what you're doing. Then your family, then your neighborhood, then your counselors and everybody starts from you. You cannot think that other person will do it for you. You start doing it. And remember, Neil, I told you a long time ago that whenever you're doing the good thing, how you know? When you see the people who don't like you. When the people, whatever work you're doing, they don't want you to do that work. And they're going to say a lot of things and a lot of stars and whatever you're saying, 1 star or 4 star or 5 star, right? So keep doing the right thing and make sure everybody's equal, everybody's different. Keep doing the things. That's what we are doing. And look, we are doing, I think we are doing a good job and people are happy. And I'm so happy that when people are giving the good comments, that they're so happy that we are doing something like this. So they're learning about other cultures and other communities. So that's the thing, makes us more proud and happy that yes, we are doing something right. That's it.
Very well said. Very well said. It's important for us to be able to see and discover what else is going on in the world, not just know what's going on in Canada, but also understand the struggles of different people, the struggles of different countries, and just learning different ways, other cultures, different ways. We learn a lot of this in the Diversity Festival, because whether it be a different instrument, a different dance, a meditation. You know, there's so many different ways to learn about different cultures, but this festival is a great one, and you put together a great festival, Sunil, honestly.
I just want to add one thing. First of all, it's not me, it's a teamwork. We all work together. It's not me. And on the top, all the people who like our things, what we are doing. That's the main thing. Do you remember 2 years ago, we have a Parkinson patients? The patients, like all the seniors, they're all Parkinson patients. And we allow them to come on the stage and do the dancing and stuff.
Yes.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
That is called diversity for us. Everybody come.
Yeah.
Very true. Very true. And that's the idea, where everybody, for us here at Moksha, literally means everybody, regardless of age, gender, race, regardless of any of that. You are welcome to these events, and we would love to have you at these events, whether you're performing or just participating as a member of the audience or as a vendor. Obviously, right now, we don't have food vendors being an online festival, but no matter what you do, we would love to have you at these festivals. And that's really what celebrating diversity is. And so very well said, Sunil. And yeah, I completely agree.
I just want to add one more thing.
Sure.
Sorry, I'm cutting you off.
That's okay, it's okay.
I just want to let Anu and Lynn knows that the youngest person on the stage we had was 4 years old. And the oldest was 92.
Wow.
So everybody's there. Like, you know, that is diversity. Like 4 years is the youngest and 92 is the oldest person on the stage and dancing. That's all.
And I think it's not just diversity, it's also accessibility. And also in terms of when we talk about diversity, Moksha is a big example that where it proves diversity just doesn't mean diversity in ethnic backgrounds. It's beyond that, whether it's diversity of abilities, age, languages, what life experiences, or educational backgrounds you are bringing. So diversity in itself is so broad, and removing those barriers to really being accessible, providing accessibility by providing such opportunities, which Moksha does, whether people are as young as 4 years old or they have different abilities and limitations due to their health conditions, the way Sunil was sharing about a participant who had Parkinson's disease and how he was allowed to be on the stage and celebrate the spirit of diversity. I think that's what it is all about. Moksha, in true sense, is practicing and celebrating this spirit of diversity and accessibility.
I was saying that I love that, celebrating the spirit of diversity. That should be the slogan. I like that. Very nice.
I just wanted to add, and it feels like we're dancing through life together, right? So let's all dance together and enjoy each other.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I think it ties in so much, so perfectly with our session 4 of the panel discussion series, which was on accessibility and health equity. So I'll just sum up my points on health equity, and I'll allow Lynn to talk about accessibility, as we had her as one of our panelists. We had Asma Khan, who brings a background of working in the social service sector, and especially in the palliative care, who shared with us the importance of health equity and the social determinants of health, which include but are not limited to somebody's social background, their health condition, their age, their sexual orientation, their economic background, their educational background, and how these all factors could contribute to the fact or the way in which a person receives services when it comes to healthcare. So as a country, as a system, we cannot have one shoe fits all, one shoe size fits everybody model when it comes to providing healthcare services. And I think Canada has been doing a lot of good work, although there's definitely scope for improvement when it comes to having provisions for different materials and resources in different languages so that people understand what is available to them. Having interpreters when it comes to going to hospital or seeking healthcare services. I think that all adds up in providing equitable services to our clients in the healthcare sector. Asma also touched base on the importance of cultural sensitivity and cultural competence because different cultures, and myself working in I have worked in the health care sector for some time now. It's very important that we take into consideration what role a culture can play in a person's way of receiving and understanding, receiving the healthcare and understanding their health conditions. So when it comes to mental health or physical health, different cultures, they interpret it differently. So I think it's very important that individuals or organizations working in the healthcare sector, they are sensitive to different cultures and what certain things could mean and what are some of the barriers or stigmas associated with certain health conditions, whether it's physical or mental health. And she gave us some beautiful examples of two different women or two different families and the way they received healthcare services and how it was impacted by their conditions when it came to social determinants of health, like whether they were working, single parent, and the way they were receiving those health services in the community. Again, I think she also highlighted or laid importance on it's very important to educate and raise awareness on ongoing awareness on these elements of cultural competence and social determinants of health. And many organizations which are working in the healthcare sector, they are adopting those frameworks where they place so much importance on health equity. And before they even start serving their clients, they do collect data that's related to social determinants of health so that they're able to see a service user or a client in a more holistic way instead of just looking at them as a condition or a disease or an illness. Those were some of the points which were, I think, emphasized by Asma Khan. And I would allow Lynn to talk about the accessibility piece. Over to you, Lynn.
Lovely, thank you. Not much to add to your point, but in the same sense, I think it really does start, we humanize it, and I think we need to start at the beginning of life, as a lot of our panel discussions have crossed over with that. It does start at the beginning of life. What systems are in place for you as a family, for your core ethics, and what are you implementing in terms of teaching your child those core ethics as you move through the education system, as you move through the world and the political system. So yes, it really does start at the family, and it starts in terms of mental health balance. As young children need that as well too. What is the language that we're choosing? Are we choosing positive language when working with children and in education? Are we choosing negative connotations when we're describing things? How do we beautify those things in life so that we all recognize that we all have a place at the table? So I think it starts at the very beginning of life. We use those frameworks that we have in place. We fine tune them and modify them as they go, because they're always ever changing. And that's okay too, because that's us growing as people, as citizens. And where do we move forward with all those wonderful things that we're learning? And how do we keep moving forward with that? And that crosses over in all aspects of society, you know, whether it be in education or, you know, community dealings and such, and health. And, yeah, there you go.
Very well said, Lynn, and very true. And ladies and gentlemen, you can see why we had Lynn as a panelist last week for this discussion. Just lovely insights there. And it's great that we have Lynn in multiple panel discussions, not only as a panelist last week, but Lynn has been a very insightful addition to these panel discussions. And for those of you who've been tuning in, she has all the good one-liners. Yeah. Anu actually had a really good one there as well. The spirit of...
yeah, celebrate the spirit of diversity. And Lynn mentioned today, we're all dancing together. What was it, Lynn? Like a dance?
Dancing through life.
Dancing through life. That's beautiful.
I'm learning from the best. I think credit goes to Lynn. It's
Thank you so much. Thank you. Honored. Thank you.
It's
And
been
she's
great.
also very positive, very positive. Anu both and Lynn as well, bringing lots of positivity, lots of knowledge, lots of enthusiasm too. They're excited to talk about these topics with our viewers at home, and it's so appreciated. Thank you, ladies. You have been a
My
great
pleasure.
addition to the Moksha Canada team.
Thank you. 1,000 thank yous.
1,000 thank yous all around, and
Right?
same here. And I think that pretty much sums up our discussions, ladies and gentlemen. That was a quick summary through panel discussion 1 through 4. And if you are interested and you have not tuned in to prior panel discussions, please, we do encourage you to do so to get all the details and the insights from our wonderful panelists. But this is just, again, a quick recap and a way to sum up all these points in a comprehensive manner so that you can get the most out of these panel discussions in a way where perhaps if you did tune in and you may have forgotten some things, here they are, wrapped up in a bow for you. And this is just a nice way to re-instill those learnings that we had from these panel discussions. Would anybody like to add anything else before we close up?
Okay,
Guess
I just want to say something to everybody, whoever is watching, that please get involved with us and show your talent, show your culture, show your heritage, whatever background you are, whatever age you have, please come and join us and get involved and let other people learn from you. That's all.
Awesome. So as we close the festival, as we close our last discussion, our last panel, of course, I'd like to thank everybody on the panel, Lynn, Anu, Neil, Sunil, the founder of Moksha Canada as well, and for all the great work that Moksha Canada has been doing. And, to sum it up again, everybody is welcome to join, to volunteer, to share their talent, share their culture. And if you want to learn more about the foundation, please visit mokshacanada.com. Follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and all social media, and just stay tuned, stay with us. And that's it. Neil, would you like to close?
Sure. Well, just to echo what Nadia said, yes, everyone, please check out mokshacanada.com. If you are interested in joining us at any events, there is an application form there. So we do look forward to hearing from you. Showcase your talent, showcase your culture, wear your pride on your sleeve. And the idea is that your passions and your talents can help shape the world of tomorrow. And so please, we encourage everyone to stay connected with us. But for now, we just would like to thank all of you for watching and being a part of this festival, being a part of this great initiative. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. Thank you so much. All the best. And we look forward to seeing you soon.
Oh, I see Sunil holding his finger up. Did you want to add something, Sunil?
I was just going to say that please follow our pages and follow our YouTube. So anything we are doing, you will get the notification. So then you have a chance to involve with us. That's what I would say.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Perfect. So celebrate the spirit of diversity with us. Keep celebrating, and we'll see you all soon. Bye.